So I have a pretty decent sized niche collection. It has a pretty good value to it as well. It's nowhere near as built up as my designer fragrance collection. Designers is more in my wheelhouse. That's what I cover primarily on the channel, so it makes more sense to funnel money into growing that side of things. But I definitely have my fair share of niche, from Creeds, Rojas, Kilians, Xerjoff, Manceras on the more affordable end, and a bunch of random stuff littered in between. When you take the retail cost of all those and add them up, you start getting a pretty high figure. And even when you add up the discounted prices that I mostly paid, it gets expensive as well. Parfums de Marly's and all that stuff. However, I mostly wear designers. Aside from a couple standout favorite niche of mine, most of what I'm wearing are designer fragrances. If that kind of eases your mind at all as far as having that fear of missing out feeling when it comes to hearing about niche and really expensive ultra premium stuff all the time, maybe that will help you out a little bit. You know, maybe you'll realize that designers are great. They're just fine too. So today I'm going to be going over just a hand-selected few designer fragrances that I simply just wear more often than my niche fragrances. And mainly when it comes down to it, all of these stand out in one way or another to me, and they fill all of the roles that the niche fragrances do, just at a fraction of the cost. So what I'm gonna do is drop links to everything down below that I talk about here, make it super easy for you to pick them up. We're gonna get things kicked off with Bleu de Chanel. This is the Eau de Parfum. I love the EDP. The Parfum is still probably about my favorite. However, I get a lot of use out of the Eau de Parfum as well. This one's got grapefruit, lemon, incense, amber. You guys know it, that smoky grapefruit, ambery, woody smell. This is essentially the OG blue fragrance, or at least the Eau de Toilette is. It kind of really kicked that whole genre off and got the ball rolling. And of course, many things were soon to follow. And when you jump over to the niche side of things, there are plenty of niche fragrances with the blue aspect as well. And they're all great. I love the ones that I do have, but also I get so much use out of Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum. It's not cheap, of course, but it's more affordable than really any other niche fragrance out there, so that really helps out. There's just something iconic about this scent. There's something that is familiar in a way because it's been out for so long and a lot of things have fallen in its footsteps, but that doesn't really detract me from this scent. In fact, it just kind of makes me drawn to it more sometimes. It's just kind of like something that's easy to fall back on. If there's a day where nothing is standing out at me in terms of what I should wear, which oftentimes can happen, this is kind of like a default scent. If I look and nothing jumps out at me, I don't have all day to sit down here and pick something, so I just go, you know what, let's toss on Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum, or let's toss on Bleu de Chanel Parfum, or whatever it is, and out the door I go. You're set for any situation. It really requires no effort at all, because you can pull this off for anything, anytime. Got a couple bottles of it at this point. My first bottle was a small, tiny little 50 ml, which I still have laying around somewhere. Eventually I ended up getting these 150s in every version, which is definitely, for me anyways, pretty much a lifetime supply. Now this next one is from Hugo Boss, and you know, they have a ton of great fragrances, especially within this Boss bottled lineup. It's Boss bottled Absolute. This fills the void of a niche fragrance for me. It really is something impressive, really, really unique for what it's worth, for the money that you pay, which is about $88 to $90, 100 ml. The big 200 ml bottles are out now, and you can get that for like $120. So you double the size for basically $30 more, which is a really good deal. This one has incense, leather, patchouli, myrrh, smoky, smooth, sweet, mysterious, nighttime oriented for me personally. That's kind of more or less when I would gravitate towards something like this. Evenings out, whether it's a date night, just in general, night out on the town type of scent, is more or less what I view this one for. Of course, it can work for any time of day, but that's just what I view it as, just because of that kind of smoky sweetness that it has. Also going to be more cooler weather leaning, That's just, again, more preferential for this type of sweeter, smokier DNA. Maybe in a summer evening indoors for a date night, sure, that would work perfect. Now, you've heard of this one for sure because it got really popular following its release, and especially once it started hitting discounters is when it really started to pick up, because I believe the retail is about $140 for this. So, you know, it's up there. At least it's 100 ml, but that's still pricey. At the price point that it's at now, just under $100. I mean, it's really in reach for a lot of people who want something high quality, long lasting, and unique. And it is, to me, just more of a niche take because it's not your mainstream designer type of scent. It kind of goes against the grain in that regard. Same thing, to be fair, with Boss Bottled Elixir, which came out just before this one. They're kind of similar. This one it's richer, it's heavier, it's sweeter, but Elixir is still kind of in the same ballpark. And so they just kind of took it to the next level with this Absolute version, which is my personal favorite between the two, not discounting Elixir at all because it is also great, and it just depends on what you're looking for. So really, again, this fills the void for people who want something unique, different, and stand out, but without spending hundreds of dollars. Now this next one is YSL Y. It's the Elixir version. Slowly growing on me quite a bit. Actually, I shouldn't say slowly. I mean, in the beginning it was. I didn't really pay a ton of attention to it after getting it initially, although I have been going back to it here, wearing it here and there, and the more that I do wear it, the more I go back to it again quicker. It's like, first got it in, wore it a little bit, was maybe not fully on board with it yet, revisited it, and then I was like, you know what? I enjoyed wearing that last week. I'm going to wear it again. And it's like the frequency of me reaching for this one has been increasing as I've just been truly finding myself more drawn to it. This one has lavender, geranium, frankincense, and interestingly enough, a bit of oud. Now, that part I don't really get much of, if at all. I mean, very, very minor and more or less just a woodiness. Not your usual style of an animalic or medicinal oud, nothing like that. Just a nice woody hint, okay? A little bit of a smoke, a tiny, tiny whisper of like a smoke from that frankincense, and then just what you would expect. Nice, fresh, kind of green geranium. You get your lavender or even a bit of tonka bean. We're getting into some things that they don't list off, but you do pick up on them. Tons of amber, amberwood, ambroxan, ambergris, whatever you want to call it. There's plenty of that to go around as well. So it does tie back into basically the EDP intense, and so on, just with a little bit of a deviation. The main issue with this, of course, is that price point because it's a 60 ml and it's expensive, but it is one that I have been enjoying. And while I have other things to choose from, designers obviously, but even niche, this is still one that I've been really drawn to lately, so I think they did something right with it at the end of the day. Just the price point is a little bit of a deterrent. We're gonna jump from one expensive elixir to another expensive elixir. Luckily, this one, there are clones available though. It is Sauvage Elixir, and so Latafa Assad, 20 bucks. There you go. That'll solve that problem if you don't want to spend $160, which I don't blame you if you don't want to, because it's a lot of money for a designer. 100 ml for this is just over 200. That's niche territory. It is. You can get, you know, Roja Elysium. You can get, you know, any Killian of your choice for the most part. Granted, difference in bottle size there. 200 bucks for a 50 ml Killian versus, you know, 100 ml, $200 Sauvage Elixir. You get the point that I'm trying to make though, is that it's still a good chunk of money that you could allocate somewhere else. However, I still get a lot of use out of Sauvage Elixir. I find myself reaching for this one more. I think it's probably kind of an easier wear compared to some niche that I have. Now, keep in mind, this one still is a warm, spicy scent from absolute start to finish. Licorice, cardamom, pepper, spices, a lot of sandalwood, creaminess, but tons and tons of warm spices off the top. So it really, it doesn't rest. I mean, from start to finish, that's what you get. And so could be a little bit overbearing sometimes, depending on, again, what you're trying to accomplish with your scent. But I just kind of find myself reaching for this one quite frankly, more often than I thought I would. When I first got it, it did catch me off guard. It was not what I was expecting because it smells nothing like any other Sauvage version. But the longer I spent with it, the more I really started to enjoy it more. And Lattafa Assad is basically as close as you can get. Again, just at a fraction of the price, $20 for 100 ml. So luckily that exists as an option as well. It's expensive and it's hard to justify the cost. I'm not going to sit here and say that you need to get this again when there are alternatives that are just about spot on. What I will say though is that you won't have an issue with performance, okay? At least not right now. If they reformulate it sometime down the road and you're watching this video 5 years later and yours doesn't perform good, well, then that's, you know, something that's out of my control. But if you're not getting good performance out of this now, I don't know what to tell you because this stuff is nuclear. It's really strong. It's straight, 12 plus hours, sometimes too strong. All right, let's go for Versace Eros Energy up next. This is my Creed Aventus alternative. It's the only Creed Aventus clone that I have. No, not really. I have so many Creed Aventus clones, and you guys know that Creed Aventus is one of my all-time favorite fragrances. Obviously niche, and it is one that I do wear a ton. I wear it a lot. However, I also find myself reaching for not only Eros Energy, but some of the other clones as well. And so sometimes when I say I wear Creed Aventus a lot, sometimes I might be talking about a clone. When they're that close, I'm more or less talking about that DNA. I wear out of my real bottle a lot, but there are also times where if, for example, I'm only going to be going out for a couple hours and might come back and shower, I'm not going to wear Aventus for that. That's wasteful to me, you know, to wash it off after a couple hours. I go for an inspiration, whether I get something like Eros Energy with a bit of a twist, or go for something a little bit more exact, like a Club de Nuit Intense Parfum or something along those lines. That is something that I've been known to do quite often, and usually I apply it heavily because it's affordable and I don't feel bad about washing it off later. And that's a really nice feeling because when you spend a lot of money on a bottle and you feel as though you're wasting it, it's not something that makes you feel good. Eros Energy, it's basically a lemon lime twist on Aventus. You really don't get the pineapple. Instead, it's just sour, punchy, tart off the opening and kind of settles into more of a woody, birchy Creed Aventus smell later on. It kind of smells closer to Mont Blanc Explorer because there is quite a variance between Explorer and Aventus as well, mainly in the complexity and the richness of the core ingredients like the woods and stuff. There is a difference. So that's kind of how I look at this one, but in a roundabout way, it still ties back to being close to Aventus, if that makes sense. If you are fed up with anything that's remotely compared to Aventus, then this is not going to be an option for you. But if you want just kind of a little bit of a twist on that, even more summery, punchy, and mainly sour, again, guys, lemon lime opening here definitely took me off guard. It is really something sharp. Something that's cool to check out here. And again, prices on this one are really coming down. 100 ml testers for, I don't know, like $70, and then not a whole lot more for full presentation. I believe 200 mLs are going for $100, so that's a really good deal. Again, double the capacity for 20 bucks. That might be the way to go. Believe it or not, I have gotten so much use out of Ultra Male. Probably can't even see it, can you? You can just barely see it splashing down. This is my original bottle that I got back when I first got it. This was 2017. When I started making videos, this was one of the first that I got featured. And so had it for a long time and have gotten so much use out of it. It's got pear, it has vanilla, cinnamon, lavender, of course. So it ties back to the original Le Male a little bit with that lavender freshness, but then really doubles down on the sweetness that you would come to expect out of a bunch of pear, vanilla, and tonka bean and all that stuff. And it is incredibly sweet. For some, too sweet, no doubt about it. So make sure you kind of, maybe do some sampling first before you go into a full bottle because it really might catch you off guard. I think some people think, it can't be that sweet. They're just, you know, they're making stuff up. Man, you haven't smelled sweet until you smelled Ultra Male. This is one of the sweetest fragrances I think I've ever smelled. And so be warned with that. And it might not sound good to you, and it didn't really necessarily sound like overly appealing to me necessarily, but then I did try it and I understood. Sometimes that's all it takes, you know. It's hard to describe things and fully capture that until you've actually tried it, and then it makes sense. For some people, it still won't be something that they like, but for me, it ended up being like a love at first sniff. I was beyond impressed with this. And it's something that, you know, more or less kind of a guilty pleasure. It feels out of place to like this that much, given the selection that I have, but there's something about it I just love. It legitimately smells like fall, just more specifically like right around Halloween, where it's still reasonable temperatures. Leaves are still falling. They haven't all fallen, and it's not all dead looking like, you know, November and stuff, end of November. Just right around that time, Ultra Male is the one to go for. We're gonna end this video on John Varvatos Oud, which at one point was and still is a discontinued fragrance, but something really weird happened where now it's available all over. I still don't understand it. I mean, I find it really hard to believe that they brought this back, considering the state of their new fragrances, basically saying that their new stuff is nowhere near as good as this, and they discontinued this probably for a good reason on the fact that it wasn't selling. So I highly doubt that this is back in production. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that there was just a massive supply of it sitting in a warehouse somewhere that all the big discounters were able to start importing now. It's really weird to me how stuff like this happens. I would love to know more about it, but that's my best guess. Tobacco, incense, oud, myrrh, leather, and a Papanax are just a few. That's just a couple of the notes. I had to look because I wasn't going to remember them all on the first try there. But look up the note breakdown, so much more. They've got rose and a whole bunch of other stuff in here as well. Back when they did full note breakdowns like this, and man, those were the days. This is a great scent. Yes, it has oud in it and it's in the name, but it's not a strong, like, overbearing oud scent by any means. It's very reasonable in the sense that it's balanced with plenty of other notes, as you can see. It reminds me a little bit of Dark Rebel, honestly. Maybe more so Dark Rebel Rider, just with that leathery kind of woodiness that it has. Again, we're not talking exact matches here, but you can't get either of the Dark Rebels anymore. But if you wanted something that was close to Dark Rebel Rider, this is as close as you can get to it now. That's just kind of where I'm at on it. Amazing scent. Grab it while you can. While you can get it for 50 bucks like you can right now, get it, because while it's available everywhere and it looks all fine and dandy, that's not going to stay that way forever. And it's going to go back to being a very hard to find collector's piece. And a fun little trivia fact here. I paid up for my bottle. I got this a long time ago when I was gearing up for my buying guide video, and I did not pay $50. I paid probably double that or more for this because this was before they found a bunch. So yeah, get yours now while you can get it for a good price, and don't overpay for it like I did unnecessarily. Alrighty guys, that's gonna do it for me. I've got a sizable niche collection, but I still wear these more. I just find myself gravitating towards these. These check the boxes for me, and they're affordable relative to my niche collection. I'm going to drop links to everything down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.